Hey Courtney, I just watched your video and I kind of felt compelled to make your response because so a couple of things you touched in there kind of touched my own life story with me. I know growing up for me, I grew up in Southwest Montana, a little town called Livingston, and it was a pretty tough place to grow up. I mean, there's a lot of bullying that happened, and I didn't come from the best of homes. I had a lot of problems with my mom growing up. She was pretty psychotic, but one thing I did have that was really good is like you had your grandma, I had my grandpa. My grandpa was a really cool guy. He was a old World War II vet, and I used to like follow him around all the time and just ask him questions, and we'd go out and work on his car together or do something in the shop or talk on the ham radio, and that was always really cool. And one of the things that was really neat is that I got to watch the Discovery Channel a lot with him. When they used to show World War II documentaries on there, because that was back in the late '80s, early '90s, and I'd watch videos with him, and I'd ask him questions, and he actually what I would find out, actually after my grandma died, like 10 years later, because after he did, was that I was the only person he ever really talked to about his time in the war. He'd never talked to anybody else about it, and I was really shocked by that, and I couldn't believe it. And it was something that was really interesting, and I just wish I could have been a little older for it so I could have remembered better. But it was a really good experience in my life, and he taught me so much about life. And like you, I had a really rough time through middle school. I actually I didn't grow until I really got into high school, so I was pretty small. And I didn't really fit in. I mean, I was living in a cow town, and I was listening to heavy metal and techno and playing with computers all the time. I just, in some things, I was so far ahead of my classmates that they just looked at me like I was weird. And I'd always been that way. I'd always been really smart, and I showed up my first day of kindergarten able to read, and made getting through school very difficult because I was always a long ways out of where head of the class was. And they just kind of thought I was weird because I was always looking at things like magazines and reading books, and it was a very difficult time. And I know high school was too. And I remember going into my senior year of high school, I was only like 5'3" and 140 pounds. I wasn't very big at all, and I got picked on a lot. And then in between, it happened towards the end of my sophomore year. All of a sudden, I just started eating like everything I could get my hands on and drinking like a gallon of milk a day. And within about a period of 6 months, I grew 8 inches, and I went from being 5'3" to 5'11", and I went from being about 130, 140 pounds all the way up to about 205 overnight. And then over the next couple of years, I even grew a bit more. I mean, even when I was into the Navy, I was still growing, and I got up to where now I'm about 260 pounds now and about 6'1", and it's funny because I had to deal with bullies quite a bit and a lot of people picking at me, and all of a sudden I was in the position where I'd outgrown all these people, and I was much bigger than any of them were. And I handled a few of those situations poorly and wound up getting in a lot of fights and having a lot of trouble. And my parents, my dad had money because he was always a hard worker. He built a company out of nothing, and then my parents got a divorce when I was in high school, and it got really, really, really messy, and it went on for it took about 10 years to finalize, because they started getting divorced when I was 15, and I think I was 25 when they finally had it finalized. All the stuff going into it and the custody battle and everything over my younger siblings, and it was just a terrible, terrible deal. And the one thing that I really remember from those years is just how bad people can be picking on each other. And I know you said you're an advocate for people who've been bullied, and it's something that's becoming a real big problem in this world anymore, is people really getting down on each other, and people that, for whatever reason. Well, I think I understand the reasons why a bully does what they do. Is I think a bully is someone that is inherently an unhappy person, in the way that they deal with their unhappiness is they take it out on other people. They put other people down, and that's kind of their way of bringing themselves up. And it's a really shitty way to be, but we have so much of that unhappiness in the world anymore. It's really disgusting, and I worry a lot about where our society's heading because of that. And it's a really sad thing. And it's even now. I mean, I'm 30 years old now, and it's still hard to think about things that happened 15, 16 years ago in that environment, in that time. And it took me a long time to really come to terms with it, and it took me a long time just to be able to come out of my shell fully. Which unfortunately the Navy helped with that. I mean, oh God, did the Navy help with that? I was thrown into this environment, and I really did really well there. And actually, when I was in the Navy, I was up in your neck of the woods. I was on Whidbey Island and spent a whole lot of time in Seattle. Matter of fact, I was in Seattle the day they found Lane Staley's body, if you know who that is. And that was one of the more memorable days of my life. It was a very sad day, but I think it's good what you're doing. I mean, that's kind of where I found your videos in the first place. I subscribed to your channel a few months back, because you had the anti-bullying videos on there, and I thought that was cool. And it's great that you're making money at it. And I definitely give you props for because I know how hard it can be to turn things around. And I had my own experience where I had to turn my life around. I got in a really bad car accident when I was in the Navy. I don't know if you can see it very well, but I've got a scar that goes all the way over the top of my head. What had happened is had a guy turn his car sideways in front of me on the interstate. I hit him doing 65 miles an hour. Side of my truck hit the ground. My face hit the side window, hit the pavement. Put my nose where my right cheek is. That's why you can see my nose isn't quite straight on my face anymore. Put my nose where my right cheek is, and then punctured my left eye from the inside with a piece of my skull that pushed up into it. And just totally, I mean, I don't know if you can see the scars on this. You can kind of see the scar there, but that scar there goes all the way around because it just split my face wide open. And I had to have that all stitched back together, and that was a really, really bad deal. Got a head injury, got a brain injury because of it and everything too. And they had to cut over the top of my head. That's where that scar is. They pulled everything down off my face, pulled it all off, put it back on. And all that's titanium now. That was a very, very difficult, very traumatic experience to go through. And to make it worse, the Navy ordered me to get on an airplane. They ordered me to get out of the hospital there. I got released from the hospital in Bozeman, Montana, where the accident happened. And then they flew me to Madigan Army to Seattle, and then bounced me around for a couple of hospitals for a couple of days until I finally landed at Madigan. And Madigan finally had to work on me, and that was a really, really big deal because, they said if they'd have waited another couple of hours that I probably would have died, and they didn't expect me to live in the first place. And what was really bad is on the flight, my brain case ruptured, and the fluid that surrounds my brain started to seep out my nose, and I started passing in and out of consciousness, and that was a really bad deal. That was a biggest challenge I've ever faced in my life, without a doubt. It's kind of funny because, now I look back at that, and after overcoming that challenge, nothing is a challenge anymore. It's like every day that I have, it's a day that I can do something with, and there's nothing that's too hard after going through that. And it definitely changed my outlook on life quite a bit, that whole experience. And it was really hard. Having my face smashed like that definitely tore up my self-esteem really bad. I wound up getting medically retired from the Navy because of it. It ended my career. And, it was definitely one of my largest struggles that I was able to triumph over. They had told me that I was going to lose the use of my left eye most likely, and that I'd never be able to drive a car again. And that was almost 1 million miles ago. I went out and drove truck over the road and, just totally proved to everybody that I could do it. And I've been flying airplanes and everything. So, I just figured I'd share that with you because, you have your own tale of overcoming things. And I know that, with where you're probably at in your life now, because you're early 20s, 20 years old, whatever you are. And things that happen in middle school aren't that far behind you. It does take a long time to come over. I still don't like to talk about middle school, and it's been, like I said, 15, 16 years ago. But I find it very encouraging to see other people, showing their stories of success and showing how they've overcome things. And I think it's really good that you're going to school and learning video and learning how to do things like that. I do it for a hobby. I make videos as I'm out messing around in my shop or whatever else, and it's a good thing, and it makes me feel good to see people doing it. And I think it's something that other people can take a lot of inspiration. And I'm just, I want to encourage you to keep it up. And anyhow, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm rambling now, so I'm going to cut this off. But thank you for doing what you're doing. I'll be watching for more videos from you. We'll see you later.